some thoughts about the challenges that Memphis offers, like with Landers Nolly and the talent that Penny has.
Memphis is they just don't let you run your offense. I think it's a spacing, ball movement, cutting, extra pass, composure. They play unlike anybody else, but they're really, really good at it. They may show 2-3 zone, but it's not a 2-3 zone. They're going to trap. They may come out of a timeout and triangle in 2. They may come out during the course of possession and go box and 1. After made baskets, they're going to pick you up. Williams and Ellis, Keonis, Nolly, Jeffries all have really good length in backcourt, get a lot of deflections. They get a lot of unscripted baskets. They're really good offensive rebounding team, really good at turning you over, converting those into baskets. But they're just good defensively. Everybody's good at something defensively. I think Memphis is the best defensive team that I've seen. We haven't played them yet, but just preparing, they're the best defensive team we've prepared for. They create more problems for you than other teams. Penny has good schemes. They're really good at what they do, and it really fits their personnel well too. Extremely athletic at all 5 positions. Rim protectors, length, athleticism, and their kids play hard. And that's a credit to Penny and his staff.
We'll go to Chris Gardner, please. Chris, go ahead.
Coach, have you seen Penny evolve in his time at Memphis in terms of coaching philosophy, changing anything?
In terms of what?
Coaching philosophy, has his style changed at all and what he does?
Yeah, well, like any first-year coach, you're going to get better as you go. I doubt he made near as many mistakes as I did. I could write a book on the mistakes I made my first couple years. Penny's way ahead of where I was when I started coaching. So Penny's a little bit of a misnomer. I was a head coach in college when I was 25, so I wasn't very good at all. But you look at his background. He may not have coached in college, but he coached. There's a lot of guys who go to the NBA have never coached in the NBA. So we get Juwan Howard. Penny's a really good coach, though. He does good stuff. They've had some, like all of us, everybody's had bad luck this year. If you just put your team in a box and only talk about your team, you can, have it set up where your team shouldn't have lost a game. Well, we all can play that game. But what changed for Penny was that Williams kid. When they struggled early, they didn't have him. Since they've had him, I've seen their team evolve. Penny knows what he's doing. He's a very good coach. He knows how to coach his team, and that's all that matters. He does an outstanding job with his personnel, and he plays to their strengths. They all know their role. Kind of a well-coached team.
We'll go to Joseph Duarte with Houston Chronicle. Joseph, go ahead, please.
Coach, speaking of Penny, I'm not sure if you heard or read the comments from earlier in this week that were reported by the Memphis media. He was quoted as saying, "Houston cried enough to get our home game." I was wondering if the way the schedule ended up turning out, if you had any thoughts on those comments and sort of how the scheduling went down for this series.
What's the question?
Well, no, what your thoughts are, if you had any comment on the fact that basically he said that your program or people associated with Houston cried to get their home game?
I wasn't aware that anybody cried. I don't remember how it came up, but going into this game, I think Memphis is 10-3 in the league. We're 13-3, and Wichita is 9-2. So the only question I asked was, all three teams have a chance to win the league championship. I wasn't thinking about the NCAA tournament. Everybody has their own thought process because, at the end of the day, everybody cares about their team. Like Memphis really doesn't care about Houston. And Wichita State has no interest in anything that we do. But what I thought is that we had played 16 league games and Wichita State's only played 11. So we played 5 more games than they did. And we played Wichita State twice. We haven't played Memphis, but Wichita State hasn't played SMU at all. So, it's all convoluted. There's no right way or wrong way. You're right, I'm wrong. It depends on the angle or the lens you're looking from. But I thought that if there was a game to be played, because Wichita State's only played 11 games, and I think they're 9-2. We played 16, they played 11, Memphis played 13, and all three of us had a chance to win the league championship. And that was where I was coming from, was the league championship. I thought Memphis, and instead of playing us twice, that means Wichita State's not in it. Well, they are in it. Wichita State, Memphis, and Houston. I thought that Wichita should play with only 11 games. Wichita State should play Memphis, and we should play Memphis. But as far as doing what's best for your program, what Memphis wants to do is absolutely right. If I was in their position, I would do that. But I think if they were in my position, they would do this. So that's probably a bad answer. I don't know really how to answer that. But Wichita State's, only played 11 games. I think they're at 12 now. But this is COVID. You can point fingers at anybody in this deal. It all comes down to everything's been tough for scheduling. We all know that if it had not been for COVID, we play each other twice, and we were supposed to play 20 games. That's what we all wanted. Nobody's trying to duck a game. We're supposed to play 20. Play 20. Here's when we play. When we get down to the end of the year, some teams are in good shape. Some teams are in better shape. But everybody wants what's best for their program, and there's nothing wrong with that.
We'll go to Brian T. Smith in the Houston Chronicle. Brian, go ahead, please.
Hey, Kelvin, kind of going off that a little, it's been almost a full year since the NCAA tournament was canceled. It was canceled, I think March 12th. I know it's impossible to put this last year and plus in perspective, but how crazy has it been, but also how proud of you are you of your program, your coaches, everyone you work with to have your team to this point where obviously you want to finish the season right, but you guys are in in some ways, your best situation possible going into the NCAA tournament again.
This has been I don't know if I've ever had daily stress like this because of the testing protocols. The biggest pressure that I felt this year was the hours following the COVID test, because you're at mercy of the results. You know, John and I had a system in place where if he called me, that means that somebody tested positive. If he texts me, that means we were all negative. And there was a stretch there where I think starting December 3rd or 4th, some people had their COVID issues late. Some of us had it early, but most people have had it. And the longer you went without it, I think the worse it became, because it's going to get you eventually. You know, there's this variant that spreads, you know, whether it's referees or the other team, managers, coaches, you know, we're having contact. So it's just a matter of time. You know, we went through ours from December 4th to about January 1st, where we were kind of out of it. But you play games during that time. But I want to take my hat off and applaud John Houston, our trainer, and Dr. Lee, who's been our medical contact person. Those guys have been awesome. I felt like they dedicated their lives to us. And I'll always be extremely appreciative of that. You know, I'm dealing with somebody's son. Everybody wants to, you know, Joseph talked about people saying we were crying about something. You know, that's so far away from my thought process. I got a nice letter from a mother of one of our sons, and the things she said in that meant more to me than just about anything. Because this year, and I think everything got heightened when the kid from Florida went down, because we didn't know, and that, you know, that the thing on our shoulders got bigger, because now these test dates became more important. The John Houston, Dr. Lee, they were diligent, they were dedicated, they were consistent, and you knew they cared. And that's a great feeling for a coach, to know that you got somebody holding your hands that cares as much about your kids as you do.
We'll go to Matt Musil with KHOU. Matt, go ahead, please, sir.
Well, Brian T. basically took my question, but I'll play off that. Is there one big surprise or any surprise that came along this season more than others?
Our experiences or players?
Both.
Well, I'd say I'm not sure this is a surprise. I think I'm more proud of what he accomplished, because he showed us what he could do last year in practice, was Justin Gorham. You know, when God closes doors, he opens windows. And that's never been more accurate than when Fabian went down with his ACL at the end of May, end of May. And we were looking around at the transfer portal for this and that. And you know, bottom line is we had the best guy sitting right here with us, and he proved it. There was nobody that went to another school better for us than Justin Gorham. Can't tell you how proud I am. His story when he came here, sitting out, you kind of you're out of mind. Nobody's thinking about you. You're out of public view. Nobody asks questions about you. You can go through some depressing days. You know, you're almost insignificant in some ways as far as what the team is doing, because you're redshirting. So he had the red shirt, and then when he came out of red shirt, he was backing up Fabian. And then what he was staring at was his senior year in the same boat, but he never wavered. In a year where guys just throw in the towel and transfer because I'm not getting the minutes or the shots, or I want to win, but there's always a comma beside that. There's never a period. Well, Justin is a period. Justin wants to win, period. Not based on how it affects him, or, you know, I want to win, you know, this is the way I want to win. That's not him. And it's good to see kids like him rewarded. I love Justin Gorham. He's what I love about coaching. When I'm done, I'll look back
Hang on, Coach. I think you got muted.
Whoop.
Okay, we're back. So giving me guys like Justin Gorham to coach, it's just he's been a blessing. He's been consistent. What he does every day is what a coach would want in a leader. Most coaches fail because they have poor player leadership, and they take responsibility for that because those are the kids they recruited. You can point fingers all you want. The teams that play to their ability level and are consistently good, programs that are consistently good every year have great player leadership. And Justin and DeJon Jarreau, last year it was Nate Hinton and Fabian. The year before it was Galen Robinson and Corey. Devin Davis, Rob, Wes Van Beck, Damian Don. We've always had great player leadership here. That's why we've been consistently good. Starts with having good players, but you better have some leaders that care more about winning than they do statistics. When Justin started making a name for himself with his rebounding numbers, his passion for winning never wavered. And that's a big reason why our team is what it is. You're going to have bad nights. There's always going to be upsets the course of the year. These are human beings. If we could be perfect, we would, my record since I've been here would be like 300-0. We just played better than this night, hadn't done this night, we wouldn't have lost the game. But that's not what this thing's about. Coaches make their money on days after you lose a game you shouldn't have lost, and you got another big game coming up. That's when you find out about your player leadership. And when you have player leadership, that's a coach's best friend. And that's what's been the hallmark of this team. We've had some tough nights, but look at us the day after we've lost. Look at how we've bounced back from losing games. And that has so much to do with the culture that you've developed in your program and how your leadership has embraced it.
We'll go back to Chris Gardner, please. Chris, go ahead, sir.
Coach, Sunday is senior day, so just what are your good thoughts on the seniors on this year's team?
Be honest with you, Chris, I get emotional thinking about it. You go back to when you recruit these young men and their stories, and they all have a story. We had to convince Brison and DeJon to basically take a year of their life at another junior college just to meet academic criteria, just to be eligible. Justin had just lost his father to cancer, and he was leaving his mother and his older brother. That was really hard for him. And those are emotional, personal moments that you have away from anybody else that I'm sharing with you right now. Those were hard decisions and hard moments in those young men's lives, and to see them now, 3 years later, and how things have worked out for them, I just couldn't be more proud of them. We don't know how the season's going to end. We do know that we're going to be in the NCAA tournament, and that's always a huge accomplishment for, even though you may be a program that goes every year, you never lose sight of how hard it is to make it. It's hard to make the tournament. Really hard. But these seniors, they move on with their lives. I got a text last night at 11:30 from one of my former players at another school, telling me about something. Makes you realize what's important, the relationships you have with these kids. You never lose sight of that. You win a ton of games, you lose a bunch of games, cut nets down, you win championships, you lose games, you have heartbreak. All of us rolled into one ball on senior night. When in this instance, I guess senior morning, 11 o'clock game. But DeJon has come a long way. I'm so glad that he made the right decision to come back for his senior year. Brison has come a long way. There's things about Brison's life that just makes you want to hug him. Justin, You know, I got a beautiful letter from his mother. And those are the moments that as a coach you sit down, and this is why you get into this profession. You know, I get berated or people talk negative about you based on whether you win or lose a game or whether or not you do what somebody else wants you to do. And that's cool. That's never going to change. So you don't just do what you feel is best for your program and your kids. But having kids like DeJon, Brison, and Justin has been a godsend, especially in this COVID year. The teams that have thrived, the teams that have succeeded are the teams I think has had the highest character kids. High character kids operate well in adversity. When things don't go well, you can rely on their character. Character matters, man. Character matters.
Got time for a couple more questions. We'll go back to Joseph Duarte with the Houston Chronicle. Joseph, go ahead, please.
In the conversations with Brison and DeJon when they were making their decision, had you ever been in a situation where you kind of had a so-called, package deal or just trying to sell two players that were sort of attached the way they were? Or how did that make that situation for you?
I don't remember if I had or not. I may have. Just when you coach for 30-some years, it's a lot harder to remember than if you only coach for 5 or 10. Let me think. Have I? Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have had that before. 2 kids out of San Francisco Community College. Winston Bell and Daryl Woods were their names. Their coach was Percy Carr. How's that for not losing it? That's just right off the bat.
Still got it.
It's pretty impressive for an old guy. But those, I think it makes it a little bit easier because you don't have 2 completely different situations. We sold the University of Houston. There's other schools that was going to do the same thing. Whoever signed them was going to have to do what we were doing. So we weren't going to do something unique. I remember they were going to go visit 3 or 4 other schools. I don't remember the situation. But I remember meeting Brison's mother, and I saw what his mother was about. And I remember meeting DeJon's mother. You tell a lot about these kids by their mothers, but you tell a lot about these kids how they treat their mothers. And they had so much respect and were so reverent to their mothers. That sold me on them. They were here trying to make a decision. Well, let's not get this twisted. We were making a decision too. We didn't have to take them. But Quantas is from New Orleans, Hollis from New Orleans, both played on Final Four and Elite 8 teams for us. I trust those guys. I trust those guys implicitly. No questions asked. Quantas said they're great kids. If Quantas tells me they're great kids, then I trust that they are, and they have been. So, but the fact that their mothers came on their visit with them really meant a lot to me. And to see the respect that they had for their mothers really sold me on them. And having Quantas here, because Quantas knew all their people, coaches, former coaches, all that. So they've been great, and they've grown here. They've really developed as young men as well as players since they've been here.
I've got time for one more question. We'll go with Mark Giannotto from the Memphis Commercial Appeal. Mark, go ahead, please, sir.
Hey, Kelvin. Thanks for talking with us. I had a question that you've probably been on both sides of this equation over the years as a coach, being the favorite comfortably in the NCAA tournament going into last game, and then in Memphis's case, a team that probably needs a win to get into the NCAA tournament. I'm curious how that affects a game like this. Does it change how you approach it from your side, or is it the fact that you stay the same all the time? What part of why you've been so successful?
I would say the latter, Mark. I don't think you change based on the game. There's always the emotions. At the end of the year, all the games are big. Everybody wants to play well for different reasons. Every school is like in a box wrapped up in a package by itself. It has its own thoughts and agendas, goals. Everybody's different. Everybody's at different stages. For Memphis, Sunday, if Memphis wins this game, it's not like it's going to be some great upset. We're not the greatest team ever, man. I mean, we have no ego about who we are. Our kids have, we lost 4 starters last year. People forget that. We had Caleb Mills, Nate Hinton, Fabian White, Chris Harris. If those 4 guys had been back this year, there's a good chance all 4 of them would be starting. But we lost those guys. And so we've had to kind of figure things out. We were better early than we were in the middle. We took a dip in the middle of the season. But I understand the COVID thing. COVID has hit us all hard. Not one team more than another. It's hit us all hard. Look at SMU. Look at Wichita State. They're poor kids. They only got to play 11 games. That's not their fault. It's nobody's fault. That's why I don't like this blame game that's going on. It's COVID, man. I mean, we all make decisions based on what's best for our program, not someone else's program. But we have a responsibility to our own program. But the more I watch Memphis, and I have not watched them this year, is most I've watched them is when they were playing the team that we were playing. I watched them play against Wichita State. Wow, they're pretty good now. I mean, they're really good. But there is not 40 teams in this country better than Memphis. All these rankings and stuff has started back in November to now. If we would rank just the month of February and March, I think Memphis would be a top 20 team because that's how good I think they are. And I'm not trying to lay some kind of groundwork here or prop them up. I'm just being honest. I am being as honest as I can. I'll tell you if I think that they're pretty good, but I'll tell you if I think they're really good. I think they're really good. I think this Boogie Ellis kid has made a difference, man. His play has elevated. I love that kid. Keonis is tough. They can talk about these other kids, but their identity comes from that Williams kid. He's changed them. If they had Williams in October and November, and he would have been eligible right away, you wouldn't be talking about needing to get to the tournament. Forget that. They would probably be leading the league. But we're all faced with something. We're losing. Everybody's got a story. We all have a story. But Memphis is a great story because they're playing their best basketball at the right time. They're I don't know if they're the best team in the league right now, but they're as good as anybody. I know that.